brushed past this girl, who would become tightly intertwined with his fate 10 years later. On the streets of Edo at the age of 17. So close, yet so far. Indeed, after the boy finished his simple dinner, he hesitantly dragged his suitcase in another direction. After nearly 20 minutes, he arrived in front of a seemingly old business hotel. At the front desk, the boy took a deep breath and stepped forward. The prevalence of English and neon signs was not as high as he imagined, and communication became a barrier. He had no choice but to take out his phone, pull up a translation app, while gesturing anxiously to explain his situation. The well-groomed receptionist maintained a standard professional smile, but her eyes clearly revealed a hint of impatience that she couldn't hide. She firmly shook her head and repeated in clear, slow Japanese, "I'm very sorry, sir, but I cannot find your reservation." The confusion on the boy's face turned to urgency, and a trace of barely noticeable panic flashed across it. He subconsciously touched the cash in his thin wallet in his pocket. After paying for the round-trip tickets and the various expenses for the next few days, he clearly found himself short on funds. Ultimately, the young man could only drag his heavy suitcase and turn around to walk out of the automatic glass door. Standing back on the roadside, as the lights began to illuminate the evening, the night of this unfamiliar place was both bustling and cold. Standing on the completely foreign street, with a language barrier, the reservation he made had turned into a mirage, and his phone was on the verge of dying. As the night deepened, the feelings of confusion and helplessness, along with the unique stubbornness of youth that refused to show weakness in front of others, were clearly visible to Tongu Nua, who was hiding in the shadows not far away. Her heart felt like it was pricked gently by a fine needle. Then, she stepped out of the shadows and walked straight towards the hotel. She didn't take off her mask, but her eyes and posture were already different. She approached the front desk and said to the staff, "Sorry to interrupt. I'm a local contact from a travel agency. Regarding Mr. Su's reservation. There was a delay in our internal system that caused inconvenience for both your hotel and the guest. I sincerely apologize. The issue has been urgently resolved, and the reservation information should be updated now. Please check again." The front desk staff was taken aback and found that the computer screen had indeed refreshed with the reservation information. "Oh, I'm so sorry." The attitude of the front desk clerk underwent a complete turnaround, and she quickly stood up, giving a slight bow to Tongu Nua, then hurried out to the hotel entrance. Outside, the young man was still standing by the roadside, watching his phone screen go completely black, the last trace of calmness on his face nearly fading away. "Mr. Su. Mr. Su." The front desk clerk ran up to him, her tone enthusiastic and apologetic. "I'm terribly sorry. There was a delay in our hotel system. Your reservation is valid, and the room has been prepared for you. Thank you for your patience. Here is your room key. Please take it." The young man received the suddenly appeared room key, his face still showing confusion and disbelief as he wondered, what just happened? Is the problem really resolved? He then glanced at the masked girl who brushed past him. He was unaware that she was the one who helped him rebook the room. Habitually, he looked at the girl in the mask for a moment longer. This habit had begun many years ago, in a vague summer filled with the scent of gardenias. In the depths of his mind, a tall and gentle figure that had once handed him silver jewelry flashed by. The young man silently measured his height in his heart. It's not her. She is not that tall, and her aura is completely different. The shadow from his memory was more gentle, while the one in front of him, even from behind, exuded a cool and aloof sharpness. Yet for some reason, he still looked at that silhouette one more time. The girl's figure soon vanished into the interwoven light and shadow of the streetlights. In the deep night, all was silent. The hotel corridor was covered with thick carpets that absorbed all the sound of footsteps. A shadow quietly slipped past the blind spot of the surveillance camera and stopped in front of a guest room door. The door lock was a common electronic keypad lock. The shadow raised a hand, attaching a data probe smaller than a fingernail, which was non-standard. There were no alarms, no unusual sounds. The door slid open silently. Just a crack. The shadow slipped in sideways, and the door closed tightly, as if it had never been opened. Inside the room, the curtains were drawn tight, and the air was filled with the characteristic scent of hotel cleaning products. Su Nua stood in the shadows of the entrance, quietly watching the person sleeping on the bed. The young man lay on his side, breathing steadily, his features appearing especially gentle in the dim light, completely unguarded. She simply watched for a long, long time. Time seemed to lose its meaning, and only the young man's calm breathing rose and fell rhythmically in the silence. Finally, she moved her feet extremely slowly, almost reverently. She walked to the bedside and gently sat down beside him, bringing her gaze level with the sleeping boy. The distance was close enough to see his long eyelashes and feel the slight airflow from his breath. "Teacher, I like him," Su Nua whispered in her mind. Su Yunju was silent for a moment, his voice gentle. "He will like you too." Su Nua received the response and leaned slightly forward, gently resting her masked profile against the young man's chest. Thump, thump, thump. The steady, powerful beating of a young heart resonated clearly through the chest cavity, reaching her ears, her cheeks, her nerve endings. It was a vibrant, warm rhythm of life belonging to the present. She closed her eyes, immersing herself in this reassuring sound for a moment. Then she lifted her head and looked back at the projection of Su Yunju in the void, carefully asking, "Teacher, when did you get into trouble?" Su Yunju was taken aback, momentarily not understanding where this sudden question came from. Su Nua continued to ask, "Teacher, did you find me, help me, and train me, because at some point in the future, you will encounter danger? Do you need me to protect you then?" Su Yunju understood. Indeed, Su Nua still saw herself as a spirit from the future, aiming to cultivate an assassin to save her future self in trouble. After all, the future self and the present self appearing simultaneously, combined with Su Nua's consistent belief that there are no unmerited gifts in the world, made this conclusion quite reasonable. so reasonable that it made him feel both heartbroken and somewhat amused. However, he did not explain but instead gently asked in return, if that's the case, Noah, are you really willing to protect me and the important people around me? With almost no hesitation, Su Nuan nodded vigorously in the darkness. I am willing. Her voice was clear and deep, every word resonating firmly. I am willing to exchange my life for your safety, and for the safety of those you care about. Chapter 127, The Stolen First Kiss. Su Yunju's heart was heavily struck. Suddenly, he understood everything. The task to assassinate Lin Ruoxuan was assigned to the AU Assassin Organization. According to the information, after Su Nuan left the Crescent Group, she joined Shadow. Therefore, it wasn't her who went to harm Lin Ruoxuan, but rather she followed her own words and secretly protected her. It must have been tough for this little jealous one. Su Yunju recalled yesterday in the rental apartment. When he and Lin Ruoxuan were on the verge of becoming intimate, that bird outside, which was causing trouble at the wrong time, was actually this little jealous one deliberately making mischief. But it must have been hard for her too, keeping her promise to stay by his side, lurking in the shadows to fulfill her protective duty, only to be forced to witness his closeness with another woman, almost leading to an incident. Thinking of this, he truly felt pain in his heart. But at this moment, what could he do? Not to mention that he couldn't change it. He also didn't dare to change it, as it concerned Lin Ruoxuan's life. He could only continue to follow this script. Thank you, Arno. Remember this time, after May 20th, 2025. Please, you must come to my side. I need you. Su Nua's pupils slightly constricted in the darkness, and then she nodded vigorously, almost fiercely. Definitely. A promise is a promise. Then, she looked up at the boy who was so close, a hint of cunning and softness flashing in her eyes, and softly said, so, teacher. Her voice was as light as a feather brushing against the heart, carrying a rare hint of coquetry. Can I? She licked her lips. And this subtle action carried a breathtaking allure in the silence. Advance a little reward? Su Yunju didn't fully understand what reward she meant. However, Su Nuan had already reached out, slowly resting her hand on the boy's cheek, feeling the warmth of his skin and the unique, delicate texture of youth. Teacher, I like him. She repeated this in her mind, this time, her voice carrying a sob. It was as if this sentence had been suppressed for too long. So long that even she had forgotten that it could still be spoken. Then, she slowly, very gently, leaned down. Her long hair slid from her shoulders, casting a soft shadow on the boy's face. She moved closer to those warm lips, which slightly rose and fell with his breath. Closer, even closer. She could feel his warm breath brushing against her nose and lips, carrying the clean, youthful scent of the boy. Her heart was pounding wildly in her chest, her eardrums buzzing, and her cheeks felt like they were on fire. In the last second before their lips were about to touch, she closed her eyes. The soft and slightly cool lips, trembling cautiously and uncontrollably, gently pressed against the boy's warm lower lip. A touch, then separation. Quick as an illusion, light as a sigh. She suddenly straightened up, like a startled rabbit, her heart racing almost to the point of suffocation, still immersed in the experience of her first kiss. Not even realizing that the boy on the bed was slowly, drowsily opening his eyes. Fortunately, it was dark, and his vision was blurry. The boy murmured in confusion, groping to turn on the bedside lamp, just as his finger was about to touch the switch. The killer instinct that Su Nuan possessed was not to be underestimated. Instinctively, as if by reflex, a precise chop landed on a pressure point on the boy's neck. The force was just right. Enough to make someone lose consciousness in an instant without causing any real harm. The boy let out a muffled groan, his head tilted, and he fell back into a deep sleep. Outside the screen, Su Yunjo exclaimed, what the heck? No wonder when I woke up the next day, my neck was sore and painful. I thought it was just a stiff neck. Turns out it was your doing, little girl. In the game, Tonggu Nuo stood frozen, watching the boy who had fallen asleep again, a hint of embarrassment flashing across her face. She softly explained to the empty space, a tone of regret in her voice. I'm sorry, teacher, it was purely accidental. She paused, muttering under her breath. If I had known, I would have given him some sleeping pills. After saying that, she hurriedly covered the boy with a blanket, tucking in the edges carefully, her movements surprisingly gentle. Then, she fled the hotel room, walking on the silent, neon-lit streets late at night. Her expression was blank, her steps steady and brisk, transforming back into the calm and composed killer apprentice. Yet, the once pale earlobes now bore a faint, undeniable blush. In the glow of the streetlight, they glimmered slightly. Su Yunjo's voice echoed in the game, entering her ears through the system, carrying a hint of laughter. You. He paused, as if finally digesting this time crossing. Both sweet and painful gift, his tone becoming subtle, the ending rising slightly in a teasing manner. So, you just stole my first kiss? Tonggu Nuo's steps hesitated slightly. She lowered her head, her voice soft and filled with guilt and unease. Teacher, will you be angry? Su Yunjo pondered, as if savoring the fact that had already happened, yet he had just come to know. After a few seconds, his smile deepened, letting out a light sigh. But thinking about it, doesn't tea seem bad? At least, it wasn't tea given to Su Qianran. Instead, it was given to this True In, this girl who left a unique mark in his life, who was trustworthy. The next morning, in the hotel room, sunlight streamed through the gaps in the curtains, cutting bright beams of light, dust floating slowly in the rays. The boy Su Yunjo woke from his dreams, sitting up in bed with the blanket wrapped around him, rubbing his eyes in confusion. He stared blankly for a while, feeling that something was off. Everything in the room seemed normal. The suitcase leaned against the wall untouched, his wallet and phone neatly placed on the bedside table. And the empty coffee can from last night still sat in the trash. However, there was an unshakable strange feeling. It was as if someone had come in during the night. In the air, there lingered a very faint, cold, almost imperceptible fragrance, neither hotel scent nor his own. Also, his neck seemed to hurt a bit. He twisted his neck, feeling a slight soreness. And his lips, they seemed a bit unusual. It's hard to describe, neither painful nor itchy. But the sense of presence is inexplicably strong, as if something extremely soft had lightly brushed against him, leaving behind a subtle and lingering tactile memory. The young man shook his head, trying to rid his mind of this absurd feeling. He must be too tired after running around yesterday. He mumbled to himself as he got out of bed to wash up. The cold water splashed on his face, waking him up a bit. But that subtle feeling still lingered. While brushing his teeth in front of the mirror, he looked at his still youthful face and suddenly shivered. Did he dream of someone sitting at the head of his bed last night? Or was it real? It must be the atmosphere here, he thought, foaming at the mouth as he muttered to himself with a hint of youthful exaggeration and paranoia. I've heard there are many supernatural legends around here. Urban legends and hotel spirits. This hotel looks a bit old. It can't really be haunted, right? His impression of this country, already lacking a strong filter, silently dropped a few points after this ghostly experience. Home is definitely better. Time flies, and soon it's winter again. After months of the Chess Saint tournament cycle, she advanced to the finals with an undefeated record, earning the right to challenge for the title of Chess Saint. Her opponent is the reigning Chess Saint, Shingo Masatka, whom she had easily defeated during her professional exam. This time, the media headlines are almost frantic. 17-year-old genius girl versus current Chess Saint. The night of change in the Go world is tonight. Can the undefeated myth continue? Will Tongu's miracle name prevail? Or is this the end of a dimensional crush? AlphaGo defeated Lee Sedol, but it hasn't defeated our queen yet. Humanity has not yet surrendered. Su Yunzhou opened the game interface and pulled up Su Nua's current attribute panel. Name, Su Nua. Current identity, Tongu now. Year of birth, 1999. Current age, 17. Height, 164 centimeters. Weight, 48 kilograms. Appearance, 91,100. Strictly following a scientific routine and optimal nutrition has ensured the glow of her skin and vitality of her body. Physique, 86,100. Daily high-intensity training and precise nutritional support have sculpted smooth and firm muscle lines, with body fat percentage maintained at an excellent athlete level. Knowledge, 85,100. In the fields of cybersecurity, cryptography, and system penetration, she has become a top presence in the world, drawing the attention of many national security agencies due to her talent and future knowledge infusion. Charisma, 88,100. Under the rigorous dual life training, her movements exude rhythm, radiating a powerful aura of control. Influence, 75100. In the Go community, she has gained significant fame and is a media focus. She has begun to show promise in the underworld, seen as an important asset by high-level figures. In the even more secretive world of dark web hackers, her alias has become a legendary presence, highly respected and ranked among the top. Overall charm value, 85,100. Significant growth. A solid health foundation brought by high self-discipline and scientific management has significantly enhanced overall charm. Hidden talent, extreme will, activated 80. Current wealth control, approximately 5 billion yen, around 2.5 billion renminbi. Note source, 1. Rewards from cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin obtained through advanced hacking techniques on the dark web. 2. High commissions from assassination tasks for a certain organization. 3. Investments guided by future information from the teacher in the global financial market during 2016 to 2017. This substantial sum has been broken down and concealed through complex paths in multiple offshore accounts and anonymous cryptocurrency wallets. It is an indispensable economic cornerstone for her future escape plan. Su Yunzhou's gaze lingered on the wealth line for a moment, and he couldn't help but smile. This number has already become a figure, continually inflating. For example, the last assassination of a certain individual earned him a reward of 1,000 bitcoins, which in 2016 was just a decent windfall, about $300,000. But only he knows how astonishing this windfall will expand by 2025. With 85 points, he is just a final push away from the ultimate goal of 90 points. He looked at the game screen, at the cold girl who was meditating in the quiet room, making final preparations for the upcoming battle of the century. The final throne on the chessboard. The bloody and outside the chessboard. The holy war of chess. This intertwining of bright glory and dark fate is finally about to meet its intersection and conclusion in the coming days. Chapter 128. The instinct of a spy in the world outside the screen. Time quietly approached 6 in the morning. The sky outside the window had already turned fishbelly white, and the city was gradually waking up, with only the occasional sound of vehicles in the distance breaking the tranquility. Su Yunzhou suddenly realized something, decisively exited the game, and turned off the computer. He then stood up and walked to the door, gently moving the solid wooden chair that had been leaning against it back to its original place. There was no other reason. He had been training in the game with Su Nua for nearly a year, although his physical strength in reality had not kept up. Those harsh and nearly cruel training contents, the precise breakdown of actions to the millisecond, and the emotionless feedback of commands had already been imprinted in his consciousness through the screen. To some extent, he had almost experienced a crash course for qualified spies. At this moment, his honed senses were capturing the subtle movements of the real world. For instance, extremely faint sounds of fabric rustling from the master bedroom next door, and nearly inaudible footsteps on the soft carpet. As a qualified spy, he accurately deduced Song Jiru was already awake, wearing little clothing, and was heading toward the door. 5 seconds later, the door opened. Song Jiru, barefoot and dressed in a soft silk nightgown, stepped out. Upon seeing Su Yunzhou standing in the living room, her eyes instantly brightened. She suddenly rushed over, hanging onto Su Yunzhou's neck, her cheek buried in his shoulder. Her voice soft and slightly breathless from just waking up. "Big brother, I thought you were gone again." She held on tightly, as if letting go would make him disappear like he did years ago. You scare me to death. Su Yunju felt a slight softness in his heart, mixed with some emotion. This superstar in the eyes of the public was actually so clingy in private. Everything felt just like the first time they met at 18. He raised his hand, gently and slowly stroking her smooth back. How could that be? You need to prepare well. You'll be very busy today. Tonight was her wedding dress concert, a day destined to be recorded in her career history. However, Song Jiaru shook her head, nuzzling against him, raising her face with eyes glistening with unshed tears, revealing unreserved dependence and a hint of a pout. Wait a moment. She stood on her tiptoes, her red lips close to his ear, her breath warm. I want a hug. This hug lasted from the door to the sofa, and then to the messy bed. An hour later, Su Yunju hurriedly put on his clothes, casting a somewhat guilty glance at the heavy curtains that blocked out light effectively. Well, even if Su Nuo is nearby, she shouldn't be able to see, right? And there are no cameras in this room. She only blacked out the hallway surveillance. It should be fine, right? He rubbed his forehead, trying to suppress the thoughts in his mind about surveillance, listening devices, and infrared thermal imaging, which had been repeatedly drilled into him in games as anti-surveillance knowledge. Outside the door, Song Jinxian had been waiting for a long time. She stood by the car, arms crossed, expressionless as she stared at the closed door, then glanced down at her watch. Half an hour. When the door finally opened, Song Jiaru stepped out with flushed cheeks and sparkling eyes, her steps a little unsteady. Song Jinxian rolled her eyes, her voice dripping with undisguised disdain and helplessness. Teacher Song. I've been waiting outside for half an hour. She paused, glancing back and forth between Song Jiaru and Su Yunju, her tone icy. You two really know how to dawdle. Su Yunju awkwardly touched his nose. They indeed had been dawdling. Yet Song Jiaru seemed unconcerned, turning to wave at Su Yunju with a bright smile like the morning sun. Big brother, I need to go to the gym to prepare. Her eyes turned into crescent moons. You must come tonight. Su Yunju waved his hand, his voice gentle. Be careful on the way. As Song Jinxian watched Song Jiaru get in the car and fasten her seatbelt, she could no longer hold back, starting the engine while muttering, my teacher Song. You're 31, and you call a 26-year-old kid big brother? She glanced at Song Jiaru's still flushed face. You two are really something. Song Jiaru leaned back in her seat, unfazed, her tone relaxed, and even a bit smug. Your cousin even calls him dad. Song Jinxian, her hand trembled, nearly making the car swerve. She wanted to cover her ears. What the heck? My domineering, crazy cousin, who is decisive and unyielding, calls him dad? Her character is completely shattered. Totally shattered. How has the world become so increasingly incomprehensible? Su Yunzo watched the car disappear around the corner of the street. He turned around and gazed at the shimmering West Lake beside him. The morning light spilled over the lake's surface, dancing like fragments of gold, while the outlines of Su Causeway and Bai Causeway gradually emerged in the distance, with the silhouettes of early morning exercisers dotting the scene. It was a picture of tranquility and peace. He looked around, but saw nothing unusual. He spoke softly. Arno, are you nearby? There was no response. Only the gentle rustle of leaves in the morning breeze and the distant, faint sounds of birdsong could be heard. Su Yunzo sighed. Forget it. If she really is nearby and doesn't want to show herself, I won't be able to find her anyway. After all, her counter-surveillance skills at this moment must be far superior to my own. He turned and went back to his room. He picked up the crucial laptop and continued to progress through the levels of the game. After all, there were still too many unresolved questions. How did Su Nuo transition from the Crescent Group to Shadow? Why was she being hunted by the Crescent Group? How did Wu Gongjin die, and what happened afterward? In the game, the time was set for the day before the Chess Sage Championship Finals, at 3 in the afternoon. The location, Neon Chess Academy. Tongu Nuo had just pretended to review her games. She picked up the slightly cool brown rice tea beside her and took a small sip, her gaze falling outside the window. The leaden gray sky had begun to sprinkle fine snowflakes. Just then, buzz, a phone placed at the edge of the tatami mat lit up silently. She calmly scanned the text message, pausing for only 2 seconds. The message contained a single line from a garbled number. The wind has risen. The firewood is ready. The old place, warm wine. Then, she pressed the screen to turn it off. Rising, she walked over to the coat rack, took down a black cashmere overcoat, and picked up a light gray cashmere scarf. She opened the wooden lattice door of the quiet room, and just outside in the corridor, several familiar professional players happened to pass by. Ah, Tongu-san. The first was the lively Xie Yuan, a first-dan player, her eyes brightening as she waved. The finals are tomorrow, still studying hard? A slightly older player, Yaga Shinichiro, a 7th dan, also nodded kindly. Tongu first dan, please give it your all tomorrow, but also take care of your health and rest well. Another player, Ikaku Yoshitaka, laughed as he patted Tongu's shoulder. No worries, look at Tongu-san's calm demeanor, completely unlike you back when you made it into the tournament circle for the first time. So nervous you couldn't sleep all night. Tongu Nuo paused at the door and nodded slightly. Thank you all for your concern. Her voice was consistently cool, but her tone was calm. I have a few small matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving for now. Nuo-chan, good luck tomorrow. Xie Yuan encouraged her with a smile. Stay relaxed. Yaga 7th dan reminded her again. Tongu Nuo nodded once more, said nothing further, and turned to walk toward the side door. Away from the administrative building. Behind her, she could still vaguely hear the subdued laughter and discussions of the players, really steady. Can't tell it's her first time in the title match finals. After all, it was her. Since entering the ranks, she had been crushing it all the way through. Her mindset had long been trained. Genius looks like this, feeling like a being from another dimension. Shoo, keep it down as we leave the chess academy. The fierce wind swept in, carrying a flurry of snowflakes that instantly stole away all warmth from indoors. Tongu Noira pulled up her scarf to cover the lower half of her face, revealing only a pair of calm eyes like ancient wells. Without any hesitation, she stepped into the snowstorm. Teacher, the time has come. It's time to cast the net. Su Yunzhou understood. The situation for Wu Gongjin had reached a dead end. According to his memory of the timeline, Wu Gongjin's death should occur on December 24, 2016, the day of the third match of the chess saint battle. This was not just an assassination. It was a blood-soaked feast meant to make her famous while completely burying the past. Chapter 129, Christmas Eve, Chess Saint Battle. On the outskirts of Edo, at an inconspicuous izakaya, the sign was "Askew from the wind," and the lantern swayed violently in the storm, emitting a creaking lament. Tongu Noira paused slightly at the alley entrance, her gaze scanning the snow-covered rooftops like radar, confirming safety with the tightly shut windows of the second floor across the street and the debris piled at the alley's end. She lifted the heavy warm curtain and pushed the door open. Creak. The interior was smaller, darker, and colder than it appeared from the outside. There were few patrons. Only two elderly men quietly drank in the corner. At the back, in the shadow behind the bar counter turned away from the entrance, sat a woman. She wore an exquisite long beige coat that glimmered subtly in the dim light. Sipping sake alone, her silhouette was elegant yet weary, resembling a city woman who had grown tired of her career, taking a moment to herself. It was Suki no Shihime. Tongu Noira took a seat behind her. With an empty space between them, no words were exchanged. There wasn't even eye contact. Only the faint sound of sake being poured into cups and the whimpering of the wind and snow outside could be heard. Time passed, and Suki no Shihime extended her finger, picking up the small flat sake cup in front of her, gently swirling it in the dim light. Nora. Her voice was low, almost blending into the background noise, yet it clearly reached Tongu Noira's ears. Wu Gongsan's recent proposals have been too ambitious. He has touched cakes that shouldn't be touched and blocked paths that shouldn't be obstructed. She paused, taking a sip of her drink, the cold liquid sliding down her throat. Someone can't sit still anymore, gathering some pocket money, wanting to ask for help organizing their study. She let out a barely audible laugh, devoid of any joy, only cold sarcasm. The organizing fee has gone up a bit. 10 billion yen. Clean money. There was no emotional fluctuation in Suki no Shihime's voice, only pure information. So, it can't be delayed any longer. She leaned back slightly, her voice softer yet sharper. In the upcoming chess saint battle, he will undoubtedly attend, giving speeches and presenting awards in public, with cameras focused and all eyes on him. But precisely because of this, the real close protection will have gaps. They won't allow too many people to crowd in front of the cameras to disrupt the scene, nor dare to appear overly cautious in front of numerous media and spectators. That was the best opportunity for you to take revenge and make a name for yourself. It was also the only chance. Tongu Noira turned her back to her posture as steady as a pine tree, her breathing unchanged. Only after several seconds had passed since Tsukishida's words did she slowly raise her right hand and tapped 3 times on the table. Knock, knock, knock. Received. Confirm execution. Tsukishida seemed to nod slightly. She didn't turn around, merely pushed a deep brown craft paper envelope with her fingertips, painted with dark red. Inside were detailed floor plans of various competition venues, marked blind spots of internal surveillance, as well as identification features and confirmation phrases for the support personnel. The plan is yours to devise, and the details are yours to control. The organization will mobilize all resources to cooperate fully. Even, she paused, her red lips curling into a cold arc. I've already selected the most suitable scapegoat for you. A homeless man burdened with a hefty gambling debt to the organization, who bears a 70% resemblance to your disguise. His suicide scene will leave enough evidence to satisfy the police. As her words fell, she tightened her trench coat's belt, turned directly, and walked toward the door. The sound of her high heels on the wooden floor echoed in a regular, cold rhythm, like the ticking of a countdown clock. Click. The door opened, and her figure completely blended into the chaotic darkness and swirling snow outside. Throughout, the two never exchanged a glance. Nor did they see each other's expressions, as if they were merely two lonely souls who entered this prematurely closed tavern to escape the snow on this cold winter afternoon, never intersecting. The 7-game match of the Chess Saint War opened as scheduled, amidst the media's fervent hype and unprecedented attention from chess fans. This Go competition, once considered an antique by the youth, surprisingly occupied the headlines of major news outlets, with online discussion skyrocketing. The reason was simple. The plot was too fantastical, too thrilling. As if it had been ripped straight from the pages of the most popular action manga and splashed into reality. A 17-year-old beautiful girl chess player emerging out of nowhere. No mentorship, a mysterious background. Since the start of her professional career, she had won every match. Not a single defeat. Now, she aimed for the throne of the chess world, challenging the absolute champion who had dominated that position for years. Each label was enough to ignite discussions. Like a myth being written. In the first game, Tongu Noira played black and won by mid-game. In the second game, she played white and won by mid-game. Public opinion began to overwhelmingly proclaim the arrival of a new era, and the twilight of the old king had come. Ninth Dan Shota in no way seemed to transform from a king into a challenger, while that girl had already been regarded by countless people as the new deity about to be crowned. The third game was scheduled to commence on December 24th. According to the 2-day tournament format, it would last until December 25th, Christmas Eve. Christmas. However, it was destined that no one would be at peace. Only blood would be the offering. This game was set in Yanaga City, Tottori Prefecture, a place renowned for its hot springs and tranquility, far from Edo. However, Takagami requested to come. In the name of promoting traditional culture and connecting with the public, this political figure will attend the opening ceremony as a special guest. Everyone knows the ulterior motive behind this, seeking to gain visibility at this highly anticipated cultural event to enhance their political image. The day before the competition, Tongu Nua arrived at the famous Washooting Hot Spring Resort in Mizuko City with the representatives of the chess academy. The competition's playing room is set in a quiet villa by the lake within the resort. While visiting the venue for the opening ceremony, Tongu Nua remained calm, her gaze casually sweeping over the guest lounge sign, the winding corridor behind, and the inconspicuous emergency exit map on the wall. By chance, she took a wrong turn and stumbled into a seemingly ordinary area at the end of a quiet corridor next to the restroom. The entrance to a storage room piled with linens, and a resting corner outside the changing room of the hot spring area. In these places, the tools prepared by the Crescent Group lay quietly in wait. A lightweight laptop hidden under a trash can, disguised as in a cleaning studio, and a Walther P99 handgun with a silencer. Everything was in place. On the day of the competition, at exactly 9 in the morning, the scent of incense wafted through the playing room. Shota Inoue, a ninth dan player, was already seated upright on one side of the chessboard, eyes closed, and breathing deeply. At this moment, he looked less like a defending champion guarding a throne and more like a tragic challenger forced to the edge of a cliff, ready to face the final judgment of fate. 15 minutes before the match, approved media reporters surged in, setting up cameras and flashes that instantly lit up the room like a blinding silver sea, with shutter sounds pouring in like a downpour. All lenses greedily focused on the entrance. Tongu Nua walked in amidst this wave of light, expressionless, dressed in a fitted dark suit, her long hair neatly tied back, revealing a smooth forehead and a cold profile. She seemed oblivious to the surrounding noise and intense gazes. Walking straight to the other side of the chessboard and taking her seat steadily, she gently placed a plain bamboo folding fan beside her. Please take care of me. She slightly bowed, her voice clear, calm, and devoid of any emotional ripples. Shota Inoue slowly opened his eyes, his complex gaze landing on the overly youthful and beautiful yet expressionless face across from him. In his eyes lay seriousness, a determination typical of a chess player. But deep down, there was a fear he couldn't deny. Please take care of me, he replied in a low voice, slightly hoarse. The match began. Tongu Nua played black first. The first move was at the upper right star point. The second move was at the lower left small point. Teacher, she whispered in her mind, help me control the pace. She aimed to drag the game until the next afternoon to see the outcome. She was already well aware of the schedule of the prominent figure, after attending the morning's opening ceremony and a brief interview with several mainstream media outlets. He would enjoy a private afternoon at the resort's signature hot spring, Suki no Yu, before returning to Edo in the evening. The window for the assassination was only during the hour or so he would spend in the hot spring that afternoon. Chapter 130, Christmas Eve. Murder night at 2 in the afternoon. The chess game was still in its opening phase. Tongu Nua raised her hand to signal the nearby referee. Excuse me. I need to step out for a moment. Naturally, she meant to go to the restroom. The referee nodded in agreement. This was quite common in a 2-day-long match. Moreover, both players had already left their seats once or twice during the game. Tongu Nua stood up and walked out of the match room at a leisurely pace, disappearing around the corner of the corridor. Instead of heading to the nearest restroom, she turned her steps towards the end of the hallway, where a restroom closer to the logistics passage was located. She pushed the door open, entered, and locked it behind her. The calm expression on her face vanished in an instant as she quickly moved to the innermost independent stall, shifting aside a stainless steel trash bin in the corner. A sleek, older model laptop lay quietly at the bottom. She took out the laptop, her fingers landing on the keyboard, instantly transforming into a blur of motion. Lines of code cascaded down the command line window. The first objective: infiltrate the internal surveillance system of a certain hot spring resort. Upload pre-prepared, looping false surveillance footage to overwrite the real recordings from specific cameras during designated time frames. The second objective: crack the encrypted communication channel frequency of a certain bodyguard team. Simulate the voice characteristics and command format of the security commander, sending 2 false directives into the channel. A suspicious unattended package has been found in the outer corridor of the hot spring area, size unknown. Please dispatch 2 members from Team A to assist in the investigation and increase vigilance. Be aware, a suspicious vehicle has entered the resort, Team B. Please proceed to the parking area immediately for confirmation and inspection. The entire process took 1 minute and 47 seconds. Afterwards, she closed the laptop and returned it to its original spot. She knew that soon, the perimeter personnel from the Crescent Group would come and thoroughly clean up the laptop along with all traces inside. Turning around, she opened the inconspicuous small door inside the restroom, entering the connected cleaning supplies room. A set of deep blue hotel cleaning uniforms hung on the wall, alongside matching hats, masks, and disposable rubber gloves. There was even a pair of cleaning shoes with built-in special insoles. She changed into the shoes, her height increasing by nearly 10 centimeters, and the shoulder line appeared broader due to the shoulder pads. Finally, she put on a pair of plain black frame glasses. Standing in front of the old mirror in the supplies room, now covered in water stains, the reflection revealed a completely transformed person. A slightly tall and sturdy middle-aged woman exuded an air of fatigue typical of someone engaged in low-level labor for an extended period, making her easily forgettable. Teacher, she said to the mirror, adjusting the edges of her gloves one last time. Keep a close watch on the surroundings and pay attention to any details I might overlook. Despite countless simulations and rehearsals indicating a 99% probability of successfully escaping and redirecting suspicion towards a scapegoat outside the chessboard, the world is like a game of chess. And that unpredictable may first still exist. Su Yunju's shadow gathered beside her, her expression unusually serious. Don't worry. There are two people approaching around the corner of the corridor at 10 o'clock, but they will turn in about 20 seconds. The surveillance camera on your left is swinging back. There's a 5-second blind spot. Go. She pushed the cleaning cart prepared by the door, lowered her head, and walked towards the hot spring area following the employee passage